Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Scree Gear is more than apparel. It's a tribute to the relentless, the tireless, the true guardians of the wilderness. It's for those who seek not just a game, but a legacy. Not just a sport, but a way of life. In our gear, you're more than a hunter. You're a story, a tradition, a legend in the making. Scree is your journey, your triumph, your success. Join the working man revolution. Success awaits.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about long-term food storage. So, I don't know, as the world gets more and more chaotic and, governments talk about threatening their people, like in Richmond, and you see all this craziness going on in Virginia, you could end up in a world where, I don't know, like you remember they had Charlotte, and they keep going back to that, where they had the riots and the craziness. And, you could have where you have like martial law, where you can't go out for a week or, whatever. Or, where things are just dangerous to go outside, where people are throwing bottles at each other and bad stuff. Or maybe, Iran gets their stuff together and decides to mess with us for real. Who knows? But either way, it's good to have a plan. It's good to have a plan for food storage. If you guys remember back, it wasn't all that long ago that we had, all those problems in Puerto Rico, Katrina before that. New York's had some little hurricanes that were disruptive for a week or so if you were in the coast there. And you need to plan. You need to be ready. And part of being a prepper is being prepared, right? The podcast is the Survival and Badass Podcast, right? So survival, well, if you want to survive, that's where that whole prepper thing comes in, and being prepared for whatever comes your way. So having a good supply of food on hand and knowing how to preserve and store the food that we get, the food that we have, the vegetables you have in the garden, the meat that you catch when you go hunting. Know how to make that meat and stuff last, especially in a situation where you might not have power or refrigeration. Those kind of things are really important. And survival, it comes down to what your body needs. Now, Kevin has a breakdown of what we're really looking for each day and in order to really thrive, right?
Yeah. Now, there's the basic rule of threes when it comes to prepping, and it's 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Those are really, that's really a broad spectrum when it comes down to 3 days without, or 3 weeks without food.
Right.
The truth is, you're not going to make it 3 weeks without food unless you're under perfect conditions, and you get in about I'd say about a week into food without any food at all, and you're starting to do permanent damage to your body. It's not that you can survive and come back and then you eat a peanut butter sandwich after 3 weeks and you're fine. You're going to have, you're going to start with basically first your body's going to eat your fat, right? And you're going to sap all your nutrients, your vitamins, all your stuff like that. Then your body's going to start eating your food, your muscle. And then after that, it's going to start eating your organs. And you're going to have like serious damage to your body. So the first thing I'd say when it comes to food storage is multivitamins. Get those, have them in your cabinet. You can take them every day. It right now, even it doesn't make a big difference. Honestly, if you're eating healthy every day, multivitamins aren't even a necessary thing. But when you are going without food, and if you have an extra 20 pounds to lose, that's going to last you a little while if you've got multivitamins with you. You're not going to start losing coordination. You're not going to be confused. Most of the calories that you use up during the day are used up by your brain. Even if you're sitting in bed not doing anything, you're using up a lot of calories. We talk about a $2,000 calorie diet, and it's, a day, 2,000 calories a day. And, that's for a healthy, active person.
Right. And assume in a survival situation, though, you're going to be active, especially if you're trying to secure more food, more supplies, or protect your family. These are kind of things, or if you're bugging out, this is stress on your mind and your body that's going to take up more calories. The 3 weeks is if you're kind of laying there,
Exactly. And you bring up bugging in or bugging out. And I think there's a big difference between the two, between the what you want to save food-wise and how you want to store your food versus, if you're bugging out, it's a whole kind of different set of stockpile. Now, wherever you're bugging out, you should be stockpiling food as you go, But if you're at your house day to day, you're going to want a couple of days that you can load up in your car, load up in your backpack, that you can bring with you, that you're not going to have to forage on your way to get there. So some of those things are, we've talked about some of these stuff. One of the best bugging out food sources that I've looked at and that I've used myself are MREs, the military meals ready to eat.
Right. They're nice and high calorie.
Yeah. $3,000 calories per meal on those. So you can really get by on one per person per day and still have plenty of energy. And they taste terrible. And they're not really expensive. They're about $5-6 a package if you buy, in bulk.
Right. Now, there are different companies that sell them, and the calories may vary, but a true traditional one that they're handing out to your warriors out there, they are in that 3,000 calorie neighborhood.
Right. And obviously there's Mountain House, and there's a bunch of different brands that make the, kind of the MREs where you just add hot water type thing. Now, and I know we've talked about water storage, and this isn't a show about water storage, but you really should think about it as a gallon a day per person that you have per day. So that's the bare minimum. So if you get, a 5-gallon jug of water in your in your basement that you keep for your water, that's really not going to last all that long if you don't have anything coming out of your tap or you don't have another source for water. Now another thing that's great for bugging out is freeze drying, and we'll talk about that in a little bit because bugging in, bugging out, it's pretty good for both of those. Mm-hmm. Jerky is another great thing for bugging out. Trail mixes. I like to make my own trail mix when I'm bugging out, when I'm going hiking. And, they have a lot of stuff that you can get that's kind of expensive that, you can buy prepackaged and stuff. But whatever, do your own thing with that. But what I really wanted to do is talk about food storage for bugging in.
Okay.
Now, what are the types of foods you like to store in your house long term?
Twinkies, they last forever, right?
Right. Perfect. They taste terrible. I don't know what the thing is with Twinkies, though. No, I don't like them. I don't know anybody that gets Twinkies. They just, people like Twinkies just because the
creamy filling.
Yeah, creamy filling, right?
Well, we just have a couple jars of whipped cream, and that's your survival, right. Setup there.
Yeah, I mean, my plan is to skin the cat, stick the whipped cream up his asshole, and just fill it up, ready to go. Meat Twinkie right there.
That's disturbing. Yeah, I don't know how it turns into that. So
Now,
yeah,
a pretty good source of nutrients that you can easily store in your house are like canned beans and rice. You can
Okay.
get black beans that'll last for they'll last for 6 to 7 months, maybe even a year.
Right.
If you buy that stuff at the dollar store, just when you're buying canned food, just as a note, take a look at the expiration dates on those, and they're not set in stone. But if you buy it at a dollar store, chances are the expiration date is rolling up soon.
Right.
If you buy it at the
Yeah.
grocery store, there's
So
going to be a difference there.
just pay attention before you buy it. You also mentioned the big bags of rice. Now, the big bags of rice can go a long way, and it's funny because, like, you think of the little like Uncle Ben's 90-second rice, and it's like $1.50 or $2 to make your rice for the dinner. When you do it that way. But then you can spend $9 or $10 at Sam's Club, and you can buy a 25-pound bag of rice. And you think about it, 1 cup will give people a reasonably full belly for a meal for a family of 4, even maybe 2. I mean, if that was the only food, 2.
Right.
And 4, if you're trying to stretch your meat out by adding that rice to it, it's going to help fill bellies so people aren't hungry. And honestly, when you're doing a lot of active things, those carbs aren't bad to have.
Yeah.
I will say, buying the long-term storage from one of these companies like Wise Food Storage or My Patriot Supply, any of these companies, you're going to do good also. But when you pick your purchases, think about where you're spending the money. One, look at the calories, see what's really, what you're getting for your money, what you're going to get, but where you're going to win with these, especially like Wise has a like protein or meat bucket. But you got to even watch with that there, because a lot of it's like, well, beef and rice. Well, then that's not really a meat bucket. If we're just isolating it, you're
Right.
putting a lot of filler in there too. But just be aware of what you're getting. Buy a lot of solid things, but then, that are high protein is what I meant by solid, solid calories, real calories that are going to, give nutritional value and stamina. But 2, get some nice things. And I know we had done a podcast a while back, and I had just bought, they had like brownie mix or something from My Patriot Supply. And I was like, yeah, I just bought like, 50 servings of brownies because the world may be shitty, but I'm going to be eating brownies every other week, whatever
Right.
it is. And somebody went out and looked, and they were like, My Patriot Supply doesn't have brownies. And I'm like, oh, well, they did when I bought them. So maybe that's why it was the sale. I was getting the, like, we're scraping the barrel, So
Right.
whatever. But my point is, it doesn't have to be brownies. Buy some comfort things. Maybe for your kids, it's bananas to put on the pancakes. I know I had read one of the prepper novels a long time ago, and the kid was like obsessed with pancakes with, something on it. And the guy just bought as much freaking pancake batter, like Bisquick or whatever at
Right.
Sam's Club. And you can buy those big bins, and that will buy you a lot of meals, especially
Right.
if you have, chickens where you can add the eggs to it to make, to make the pancakes with Bisquick. But also you can buy pancake mix that doesn't require milk or eggs or anything
Right.
else
Be
to it.
conscientious, whether you have chickens or not. Be conscientious when you're buying the pancake mix, because some is, instant, just add water, and some of it you have to add eggs.
Milk,
So
oil, whatever.
you don't want to find yourself with a bunch of pancake mix and no eggs and not be, it's going to end up tasting like shit.
Always make your Bisquick biscuits, and if nothing else, that's you make your little ones. We used to do them on the camping trips where you'd kind of just stir up the dough balls and kind of make them, and at least it's filling your belly and it's got something there. But the point is, plan sufficient protein for your family for long term. Now, hopefully, this is all going to be to supplement your already ongoing food production that you have at your house.
Right.
If you're a prepper, you need to, if you're living in a city, you need to take extreme measures on buying, substantial food storage. And I know you're like, well, then I don't have anywhere to store it and whatever. Well, then get out of the city. I don't know what to tell you. Or at least have a plan to bug out, to your other residents or with your brother or with your cousin or with your best friend, Lucy, whatever. Have a plan. But the bottom line, realistically, you need to have a way to supplement your food storage. And that's part of, what we're going to get into in the second half here is ways to preserve and store like your summer gardening, or when you go hunting in the fall and you bag a deer, and ways to actually keep that meat going. So you're not forced to eat an entire deer in 2 days, or,
Right.
share it with your friends because you have no way to preserve it.
Yeah.
So these are things to look into now, but also some of when you're ordering this, My Patriot Supply or whatever, if you're buying food, buy stuff that is going to supplement what you already are able to produce, and start thinking how those two things will interact with each other. And definitely, as long as you're rotating through it, you can do a lot of things like the Bisquick and the rice and the stuff like that. But that's stuff that you should kind of have a plan for, to get through it in a year naturally on your own. And then, the longer term stuff should be the stuff from My Patriot Supply. Now, realistically, if you just bought $100 worth of rice and rice flour and Bisquick, which flour with baking soda or whatever, baking powder. I never remember which one's which. They always confuse me. But if you bought $100 and then even had to throw it out or give it away to somebody because it's nearing the end of the expiration, and replaced it every year or every 2 years, whatever the life is on that, that isn't the end of the world, because it saves you from going the other way, of not having anything or having to, buy tons of stuff that's at such a premium. That kind of calories, you're going to spend $1,000 for just $100 worth of 2-year storage. You're going to spend $1,000 to buy from a company like Wise or something like that for it to last 25 years. And that's where Kevin and his genius, what is it? Like freezer bags, and what else you got going here? Evaporator, dehydrator. What are we doing?
Well, I wanted to get in. There's a couple of different ways to make some food,
Really?
from the grocery store last a little bit longer. And you're talking about rice. I just want to touch on real quick. You're talking about rice storage, and when I was a youngster, I remember a guy used to come and stay with us from India. He ran a Bible college out in Nagaland, India. His name was Chuba Ow.
Sure,
and,
Chuba.
I always remember him talking about, how they ate there. And it was just 2 meals of rice every day. And on Sundays, they would add meat to it.
There you go.
So it's like you really can live on rice. And a lot of people all over the world do.
Yeah.
So some stuff that you can buy just to have in the house, long-term wise. We talked about rice. Peanut butter is 6 to 7 months. It's good for if you keep it in the fridge, and it's 3 months if you just have it in the cabinet. Honey, jam lasts about a year. Honey, it says 2 years on the expiration date. That's what everyone's agreed upon. But it really, if you keep it in a dry place, it'll last forever.
Right. As long as it doesn't get exposed to bad stuff, honey
Right.
will last forever. Right.
Pasta, they last for a long time. And one of the things with pasta is if you throw it into the freezer for a couple of days before you put it out, it'll kill almost everything that is gonna do damage to it long term, and it'll add 6 months to the life of that pasta. And dry pasta lasts a long time already.
It's a long time. Yeah.
Right. Jars of pasta sauce, because got to. Marinara sauce, jarred tomatoes, that stuff is great. Another thing that's important to have on hand is salt.
Yes.
Salt can be used for almost all your meats, just to add some time to it. Oil, it's good to have your fats with the food that you're having. That adds a lot of stuff to it. Coffee, ground coffee, and coffee beans is great. Flour. Now, flour lasts a long time, and I was talking to somebody this week that told me that they used to when they were weren't able to get to a grocery store frequently, they'd store their flour by making it into hardtack, which is basically flour and water, and it bakes into like a really shitty, awful tasting bread. But it lasts forever, and you can just stack it up and put it in a Ziploc bag, and it'll last in the cabinet without refrigeration for a long time. But also it tastes terrible.
To each his own, right?
Yeah. Another thing that's good to have on hand is things like spices, seasoning pepper, ground dried garlic, all that sort of stuff that makes the awful food taste a little bit better.
Right.
Tabasco sauce is another thing that's great. You can sit that in the cabinet and not have to think about it for a long time. And I'll tell you what, Tabasco makes everything taste a little bit better. At least bad things taste less bad because it covers it up.
There you go. Kevin's ready to put it on ice cream, so watch out.
What's that?
Kevin's ready to put it on ice cream, so watch out.
That's right, man. Everything that people eat, I put Tabasco on it. All right, so let's talk about dehydrating foods. It's really a simple process.
Yes.
But you're really limiting the food storage. This is a great idea if, say, the power goes out and you've got a bunch of things in your refrigerator and the electricity, the refrigerator isn't working anymore. All that food is just going to be garbage soon. So what can you do to really kind of, preserve some of that stuff to make it last for a few weeks, a few months? Dehydrating is a great way to do this. And, if you have a separate water heat source like propane or, a wood stove or a smoker, these are really, get all your meats in there. Take a freezer is great for saving a half of a cow, for your meat for the summer. But if that goes out, you can smoke all that stuff and get it going and just keep it smoking and keep the meat turning over and really stretch that meat out for a long time. So dehydration is great for fruits and things like that too. Apple slices and pineapple and a lot of that sort of stuff.
No, exactly. And the thing is, like, even if you weren't able to buy the Ron Paul big Harvest Right dehydrator or whatever, right, or his is freeze drying, isn't it? I guess he freeze dries it. And that's awesome if you can pull that off. But when it comes to dehydration, the big thing is you want to get moisture away from the food. And
right,
if you can, if nothing else, you could take your vegetables or especially your fruit and lay it out in the sun on screens. And it will, once you get rid of that moisture by letting it bake in the sun, it will last. You're going to be able to get through the winter if you're able to put it in a protected area. You can't leave it out where flies are landing on it and all kinds of crap like this. But if you dried everything out and then put it in jars or something, you'd be able to store it, or even in a dry sack that's, going to keep it away from things getting into it. This is something that you could have at least through the first half of the winter. You could keep that fruit going on. And next, later on, we're going to talk about root cellars and some other options. But being able to keep fruit and vitamins going all year long is going to do great things for your body.
Yeah, I think, you're talking about moisture levels. And yes, drying is really good. And that gets about 80% of the moisture out of the food. And that really, the three things that you really need to be careful when it comes to storing food is heat, moisture, and air. And the more moisture you can get out of something, the better. So dehydrating gets about 80% of the moisture out. Now,
and that's why it doesn't last forever. That's right, why freeze drying or something wins. Right.
Right. And you can get silica gel packets. And those, I can't understate how how useful that stuff is, putting it in with that. But when it comes to freeze drying, I was looking up a couple of different freeze dryers, and they're a lot. Honestly, they're pretty damn expensive.
Yeah.
You're looking at spending over $1,000 getting a freeze dryer. It seems like every place I looked at had this Harvest Right company that did the freeze drying.
Right.
I can't tell you if they're good or bad because I don't have any of them.
When I looked into them in the past, they were like around $5,000. So
Right.
you were paying, but they were pretty big. I mean, you're doing volume,
right?
But it's kind of like you're doing your farm, and maybe if you had like a CSA, they call it a community share program kind of thing. Basically, people buy a share of your produce, and they come over and they get a week's worth of groceries kind of thing, or a week's worth of farm products, and then they buy their other shit or whatever. If you were doing something like that where you're serving a large number of people, one of these is worth doing. If you were even a group of preppers, survivalists that wanted to kind of work together, have a kind of community mindset in your preps, then something like that might be something worth considering. But on the individual level, there's probably more efficient ways you could spend your money, I guess would be the answer.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that the pluses of freeze dry. Now, a freeze dryer works by basically what it's doing is freezing the food that you put in there. And it crystallizes, the ice does, the moisture. And then you slowly heat it up, and it goes directly from frozen to
gas,
evaporated, right? Gas. And it's basically what you're doing is you're saving the structure of the food. The food stays the same, structure, and the moisture goes out and is evaporated. And that food, you can freeze dry basically anything. You can freeze dry meats. You can freeze dry fruits. A lot of the stuff I saw was meats, and it looked like it was really not a big deal, and it didn't taste all that bad. Now, the other plus of freeze drying is you're not damaging any of the nutrients. Right. You basically are saving all the nutrition of that food as you freeze dry it. And you can add freeze dried stuff to a lot of the other stores that you have to make them taste better. You can add it to oatmeal, cereals, breads, all that sort of stuff. And like I said, it's a little expensive to get started. And if you got started with a small one, the truth is you're not going to need a huge one unless you're really doing massive amounts of food for more than just yourself and your family.
Right. Like I said, it pays if, you're able to service a larger group utilizing your vegetables. But for the individual family, $5,000 is a big expense. I don't know. I'd rather have a tractor. That's what I'm telling you.
There you go. Now, what do you think about smoking foods? Have you done any meat smoking?
I would say, well, I have on small levels, and I want to kind of get into it more now that I'm hopefully going to be setting up a new homestead here. I'm going to, I actually bought a lot of parts to build it. I went to Tractor Supply, and they have the big like iron door. So if you're going to do like the barrel fire pit kind of thing. So I got the big iron door to set up, for smoking and stuff like that. So I have big plans, but I've only done it on small scales where like you think of like the grill kind of ones, or where you funnel the smoke in and smoke it all up to cook it. But it basically goes in 3 levels, where you have drying, like you were talking about earlier, where you're going to take some salt and some heat in order to get rid of that moisture. And that's how you can get, a little above that 80%. Then you have curing, where you're just using a ton of salt to really just suck all the moisture out of there. That's a different level, and that's something where you don't use heat really at all. Then you go into smoking, which is where basically you use the heat from the smoke in order to get rid of the moisture, and it clears it out. We actually did a podcast way back. You can kind of dig through the archives on a smokehouse and smoking if you want to get a little more into it. But no, it's really a great thing. And obviously, people now are really into smoking for the taste. Technically, if you can dry out the meat with the smoking, it'll last a very long time. Typically, people will only have it last like 2 or 3 months. It's just really how well and how perfect you can do it. The big thing is the outside ends up becoming completely dry and like hard. Like think of the like crunchy skin you get on, the outside of a ham or whatever like that, versus like the inside still stays moist. And that's why you still don't have that indefinite. However, if it is perfectly sealed around the outside, it should last. But again, that's, check out the smoking episode. There's a million books and videos on smoking, and you can kind of decide how long you can stretch things and get a better feel once you have a better understanding of how it all works.
Yeah. Now, I don't have any experience in canning stuff. That's one of the things that, as far as prepper goes, I feel like it's one of the places I'm lacking. What's one of the reasons I like doing this show is because I get caught. You're not that great of a prepper after all, because you don't know how to do this thing, or you don't know much about that. Now I know your missus had done a little bit of canning. Is that right?
She does the canning. I stay away from it. Basically, what happens is you're going to end up sealing it in a jar. You're going to bring it up to, I think it's 220 degrees, and you're going to kind of keep it going for like 20 minutes. However, there are very specific recipes and things that you can. And if you don't fully understand the process, you need to be very careful of it, because you have to be very aware of what is getting canned and make sure that it's not something that's going to still, grow bad things. And that's where people get into trouble. So if you're the amateur and don't really understand it all, if you follow the specific recipes, don't double them, don't deviate from them, you'll be able, the kind that you find from that Ball company who make the glasses and that kind of stuff, the jars, right? Mm-hmm. They have a million cookbooks and whatever. You want to stick right with their stuff and not be like, well, I'm the creative chef and I can do this. You want to, because even the proportions end up making a difference. So you want to be aware of it until you understand the process. Now, there's a million books out there, and I'm not the guy who can explain that whole process to you. I'm the guy who can look at the directions and the recipes in my Ball jarring and canning catalog there and follow the process, So that's really how you need to approach it.
Yeah. Now, I think if you guys are interested in that, send an email or let us know on the Facebook page. I've got a couple of people that I've been talking about that do some canning, and maybe we can have one on the show and really get in depth with the canning. I mean, to me, that seems like it's a really useful talent and useful skill, because you can do that, after the power's out, after everything else. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, not hundreds of years, but decades. They've been doing, canning. And it's really a simple process once you get it down.
Now,
and when you have the proper equipment.
Darren in the Prepping Badass group, who has that Murray Mayhem there, mm-hmm. I don't know that he has. I think your best way, if he has some knowledge on canning and cooking like that, and he actually was recommending that was one of the ways we should look into. You might want to reach out to him, see if he has any video resources. You can definitely find him in the group, and I'm sure he'd be happy to point you in the direction of some videos he has or whatever. I know he was having a little trouble with his YouTube channel, but I'm sure he can point you in the right direction of what you need to do.
Business now.
Is he? It's all set? Yeah. All right. So then I know he has some videos on that kind of stuff that you might want to check out. So.
All right. Now, root cellars.
Okay.
Root cellars are one of my favorite food storage ideas and things that I do. I think that and a food storage root cellar is simple. You can go all out and dig a big hole in the ground and line it with concrete and set up the shelving and things like cabbage and carrots and potatoes. You can really add a lot of long-term storage with things like that. But a lot of people get overwhelmed by the whole root cellar idea. And the truth is, you can make one in your basement if you have one. It really needs 3 sides to, that are underground, that are touching the ground, that really kind of keep the heat in. And if you put it up in the northern corner of your basement, and just build a wall around the front, the side and the top that you insulate it in, you can make a small root cellar, for $100 or less,
Yeah.
just getting the insulation in there. And, really adds keeping food refrigerated like that without a refrigerator can really add a long time to the life of your root vegetables.
Yeah, exactly. It is the root vegetables that hence the root cellar kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just those are the kind of stuff that's going to thrive, that's going to really benefit from the extra temperature, the extra couple colder degrees. So,
mm-hmm. And, I think a lot of people shy away from potatoes because you got to dig them up and it seems like a big project. Potatoes are so easy to grow. So easy. You can grow them in pots. You can grow them, you can grow them outside in the ground and just dig them up and put them in there. It's such a simple thing to do. I've found potatoes just growing in my compost bin from throwing old, potato skins and chunks in there. And they'll just grow on their own. They're really simple to grow.
Right.
And they're really easy to store. You can store potatoes for a long time. I think they're underrated.
Yeah. Garlic is another great asset
right.
that is super easy to grow, where it takes little effort to plant it. And that's something you don't have to be the genius at collecting seeds and drying them and whatever. You just, set the whole bulb, I guess, aside. And then when you're ready to plant in the fall, you just separate the cloves and drop them in the ground. Basically, you push them in about an inch. You can watch YouTube for about 20 seconds and they'll show you how to do it. But you just basically push it about a half inch to an inch into the ground, and they'll sprout right up in the spring, and you just go out and grab them, and your one clove is going to turn into a whole bulb, and you can kind of redo that every year. And after you do it a couple years, you'll find that you're getting garlic everywhere without any effort, because when you go to harvest them, you'll end up missing things here and there, and it just kind of, you end up with like a garlic patch. It just, runs away. And having that seasoning and also I'd imagine it'd be a great barter item,
Right. I mean, and it's great health benefits with garlic, and there's great, it helps with mixing it with the salt as far as keeping food. And you're right. I mean, if your neighbor grows, tons of vegetables and stuff like that, if they don't have garlic, they're going to be very happy to trade a basket full of cucumbers for a clove of garlic.
Right. And also, you were saying people, kind of iffy on potatoes. Those easy potatoes, when you add garlic or also onions, which aren't that hard to grow, you're going to really, get some benefits there.
And potatoes, when it comes to potatoes, the freeze dryer is great for that. That's, if you're thinking about getting in and freeze drying, potatoes are a great way to go. So overall, what I'd like to impress upon people is that if you can match up like getting your nutrients and your calories in, you can go a lot longer than eating whatever it is that you can find here and there. And, when it comes to vitamins, you can get creative with that sort of stuff. You can get one multivitamin that has, all, 100% of your daily everything on it. You can get vitamin C, vitamin B individually. You can do Viagra and Oxycontin, whatever it is that you need.
Whatever.
You want to store up on Adderall?
Go through your favorite vitamins, right?
Get that shit going. I'll tell you what, man.
We're always
Viagra and a multivitamin every day is going to keep you ready to go.
It's
time to rock and roll, man.
I always feel like we're doing so good, and then it just somehow flies off the rails,
Yeah. Well, a little bit of Adderall and a little bit of Viagra every day is going to keep your fucking life going. Get shit cooking,
on top
man.
of your game, huh?
That's
Sounds
right,
great.
man.
So
now,
yeah.
If you guys want to get a hold of us and let us know some of your food preservation ideas, I'd love to hear about it. Anybody that's into canning, let us know and get on the Facebook page. You can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Survival Prepping on our Facebook page. And I always love to hear from everybody that's out there that's doing the same sort of stuff. I learned so much from seeing you guys and hearing what everybody else is up to.
No, exactly. So also, if you are appreciating it and you want to keep things going, and maybe, just maybe, you want one of the few remaining Prepping Badass patches that we still have, you could support us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/preppingbadass, and you spell it like it sounds. Actually, Phil and Brock both decided to start supporting us this month on Patreon, and I will be sending them out patches, and that means our supply is dwindling. I know we've said that in the past, but then Kevin found like 12 more hidden in his underwear drawer or something. So,
right.
Hey, things are looking up. Just take it as a positive.
Yeah, the missus works at a patch company, so we got that. We'll have to make up some more here. New style, new design, something like that. If any of you guys are artists and you'd like to see a specific something, man, we'd love to see some artwork and some ideas.
Right. Well, also, if you guys remember, now somebody did send us artwork and we didn't go with it. And I think we made we alienated people way back a million years ago. I don't know if we get in trouble with that. But also Hamish had brought to my attention a little recently that we need to look into maybe moving some Prepping Badass knives. Maybe finding a way to sell them, give them away, do something. Mm-hmm. The big holdup was I had the big move and all my stuff's been in storage.
Right. And
now I hopefully have a new badass location and I'm starting to slowly pull things out of storage, set up the new homestead. You guys might see some videos and some pictures coming in the near future, hopefully. The next, I would say, give me 2 or 3 weeks, and you might start to see some, secret photos of the elusive badass compound. And, maybe
we might have to come up with some contest ideas as far as because I know that we have some really high end knives that are hidden away. We might have to come up with some sort of contest raffle type deal, and figure out how to get some of these. You had some, what is it, Damascus steel?
They're Damascus steel Bowie knives,
handles and sheaths,
and we really have nice stuff. Some nice little Skinner knives, some cool stuff going. So and with custom spanny blade. Did I say spanny, Seth?
Yeah,
before?
Spanny and sheaths and handles.
I might have said Hamish. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. My mind's going 2 different places. But some custom spanny blade sheaths. And a lot of cool stuff. So
now, have you seen this story about the obese ISIS preacher?
I did not see the obese ISIS preacher. They just
captured this guy. He's 300 pounds in Iraq. He's been on the internet preaching about whatever Muslims do. I don't know, beating women and that sort of thing. And So they just he was trying to get like jihad shit going on.
Sure.
They just arrested him and they had to load him in the back of a pickup truck because he couldn't fit it into a car. He was so fat. 300 pounds. The SWAT team went and collected him, and it had to like basically roll him out of his house and into the back of a pickup truck to get him to jail. He was so fat.
It sounds like more than 300 pounds, but
yeah, he's a big fat fucker.
Nice. You always bring up the happy thoughts, Kevin.
Yeah, no,
you're looking out for
there's
us.
always some good news out there.
Now, if you have some interesting things, you might want to share them in the Prepping Badass group, or shoot Kevin the email, like you mentioned, at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Or, I don't know, what else could they do? I guess that's it. Those are really your only two options.
Yeah, we might be looking at a third social media idea. I'm not sure what it is yet. If you guys have any ideas,
apparently we keep offending Facebook.
Yeah, we've been hurting Mark Zuckerberg's feelings. He's
a delicate flower, and
we're posting pictures of guns online. And I tell you what, though, honestly, if you're posting any pictures of your firearms online, make sure that the numbers the serial numbers are not visible, because they're starting to keep track of that.
Yep. Maybe put a little electrical tape over it, or you can
just
put
it's
a
not,
line on
what's
it
not
later.
illegal, which is shocking in most states. You can file the serial number off of that gun without any repercussions.
I think that actually is illegal.
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but all I'm saying is probably a good idea to do.
No, that is illegal. Don't do that. You can buy a gun without a serial. Well, no, actually, you can make a gun.
All the serial numbers off of all my firearms as soon as we get done with the podcast. That's my next step in life.
And that is Kevin talking.
Yeah.
For the
put a Post-it over top of it when you put some duct tape over that serial number before you post it on Facebook. That's all I'm saying.
Serial numbers is absolutely not a good idea, and I would recommend against that.
Your firearm should not have a serial number anyway. This is America. I mean, this is, it is what it is. It's not like they got a list of your name and the serial number of your firearm right next to it that the federal government is storing. They're not storing that. And that's one of the loopholes that we need to start taking advantage of. I'm not trying to get angry or upset or get anybody like having their vagina hurting. I'm just saying that, that's my feelings.
All right. Well, take your delicate feelings, just as long as the ATF knows it's Kevin.
Yeah, fuck the ATF.
You need to go to,
fuck
not
the
me.
FBI. Fuck the DEA. Just do what you want.
Again,
this is America.
Kevin.
Do what you want. We're grown-ups. And if you live in Australia, don't listen to any of my opinions, because you'll immediately go to prison for life.
Oh, my goodness. Or China. Yeah, I feel like, remember on that whole show Home Improvement on Tool Time there, and Al would hold up the sign that's Tim Allen or Tim whatever.
Right. Well, if you wanna be like a safe,
non-sitting in prison kind of guy,
and if you want to be awesome, listen to me, because I've got the best ideas and the best opinions. File the serial numbers off your firearms, then post them on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg won't know what the fuck is going on.
There you go. But then secretly write the serial number on the other side for the ATF. I'm just saying. Or put that sticky note. Actually, they have all kinds of rules about how deep it has to be engraved and all kinds of stupid stuff. So with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week, unless you follow Kevin's advice and go to prison. Or you go to Virginia and get arrested this weekend. Could go either way.
Go for it. The Survival and Basic Badass Podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.